Hey guys, so I decided to make a podcast. Um, there's really no purpose to this. I just decided to just say fuck it and go at it. Um, welcome to the Lightbulb podcast. Now, what's the purpose of this podcast and who's gonna be on this podcast? I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. It might be a solo podcast, might not be a solo podcast, might have a co-host or not. But, I always wanted to create one. And, I was inspired by some people. Like, for example, the Misfit podcast. Nice podcast. I liked it. Was a big fan of it. Started a little bit late. I wasn't there since day one. But honestly, the main reason I wanted to do this podcast was so I could talk to myself and, maybe it'll help me feel better about myself, talk better, and all that. Improve my social skills. Um, I feel like I should definitely give some some info about me, since you might not know me, who I am. I go by the name of American Lightbulb. I'm not gonna go ahead and pull out my real name and such, but if you're from my school or you recognize my voice, you probably know who this is. Probably that one kid that you never talked to. But I'll give you a little bit of insight, to the people who actually don't know me. Um, I'm just your regular, middle of the kid, for being my age of which is 17. You know, I vape. I did some drugs before. I definitely drink, but not too much because I have to counterbalance that with the gym. Speaking of which, yes, I go to the gym. How how astonishing, to have a guy go to the gym, especially a teenager. I mean, it really helped me out. I've been going for how long was it? It's been more than 8 months. I don't know. I started back in May 2021. That was when I started going to the gym, and it really did open me up to some things. But you know what really opened me up? These old podcasts that I've been listening to. I've been listening to, as I said previously, the Misfits. Very nice podcast. They're a very creative group. I've been following some of the members for a while now. I think back in 2016, back when they were at their prime. It really brings me back to my childhood listening to them. Because back then I was like, what, 14, 13? I'm not sure. Math was never my strongest suit. I was a pretty young age. I was what some might consider in their preteens when I was listening to that podcast. And looking back at the podcast, I never really understood most of the jokes or most of the humor because, I was just a wee little kid. I was 13. Yeah, definitely 13 now that I remember it. I was 13, chilling and not understanding, like how life really worked back then. And honestly, I didn't take, their stories, and thought, "Hey, I can do that." I mean, I'm saying I could do that, but you know, that cost money, income, all that in order to create experience like that. So I just make, my own experience as cheap as possible. And another podcast that really, really stuck to me was the Homies podcast, which basically had raccoon eggs and the narrator. No, it was JC the narrator. Yeah, amazing podcast. And a matter of fact, I wouldn't even mind if you switch off this podcast and start listening to their podcast. I mean, they only had 3 episodes, but it's reasonable because most of them had, some real problems, real life problems, which I'm probably not going to incorporate within this podcast because I guarantee you don't want to hear about my own problems and shit. You probably are here to, listen to, regular podcast shit, talking about these random ass ideas and all that shit. I mean, I don't blame you. I'm a big sucker for that thing too. It really just hits a very nice spot, talking about, life versus legacy or like old school music and such. That what really was the homies podcast about. And honestly, I think that was the one reason why I liked it, because I was able to see my content creators that, I've been watching for so long actually, taking a less comedic approach towards, their thoughts. And honestly, I don't blame them. I don't blame people who like it. Like, it's not a guilty pleasure. It's definitely something nice. And that might be the main focus of this podcast. Who knows? I'm going off with no script whatsoever, no idea in mind. And since it's the first episode, I feel like it's definitely going to be necessary to explain who I am. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to explain who I am. I've been delaying it for 5 minutes since I started this recording, which is recorded on my phone, by the way. If possible, I'll definitely get some upgrades down the road. Maybe a proper microphone and a proper recording app. Right now, you're just going to see the humble beginnings of me using a goddamn voice recorder app. It's not even a like a third-party app. It's from the phone itself, which has better microphone quality than my headset. That's a bit surprising, I guess. But anyway, about me. Like I said previously, 17-year-old, run-of-the-mill kid, goes to the gym, works out, tries to eat healthy. Just normal shit you would expect from a 17-year-old kid. Except, probably the constant nicotine addiction that I've been fighting for 3 years, actually. Not 3 years, it was more on and off type addiction. And, a little bit of drinking, which I really don't endorse. Like, listen, whatever I do not do on this podcast unless it's something healthy. Just, stay healthy. God, that's so retarded. But anyway, yeah, what can I say? I've been there, been there, did that. Nothing illegal, of course. But yeah, the main purpose of this podcast, like I said before, was to really just talk about shit that comes to mind. As for the shit that does come to my mind, it's probably questionable, to at least questionable, not illegal, but very questionable. Like, I let my thoughts get the best of me sometimes. But hey, I don't see that as a problem. I see that as a good thing, actually. Why? Because you gotta be yourself. And that's why I'm on this podcast, so I can be myself to the fullest potential possible. To the fullest length, I mean. Yeah, as you can tell, I suck at talking. Like, I genuinely do suck at talking. But hey, it is what it is. We all gotta start from somewhere. But, as I said, coming back to the third time, again, because I can't keep one topic at bay. I always gotta switch up the topics, because I'm a little bit special. But anyway, as I was saying, yeah, my name's American Lightbulb. I'm 17. Recently turned 17, actually. But yeah, you don't give a fuck about that. I'm 17. I would consider myself, pretty average. I go to the gym. I work out for 3 hours. Then I cry in the bathroom. Nah, I don't. Of course, I'm a guy. I can't cry. We've been told not to cry. A lot of times, actually. Way too many times. But I'm an IT student. That's probably one interesting thing that you would probably want to know about me. I'm an IT student, second year learning IT. I wouldn't consider my sophomore year very good because of the pandemic. Yeah, the big Koof 19. Worst shit of my life. Probably worse than that one time I got my Roblox account deleted. But that's a story for later. If anything, I would probably invite a guest over to talk about that because he was there when it happened. Thankfully, I learned from that mistake and I'm not doing that again. Which is another thing. Do not think about don't think about the past and its mistakes. Because why? You're just gonna be you're gonna end up sad as fuck, or the positive outcome, you're gonna actually think back about it and realize that you were a dumbass back then. Which is why I also want to start this podcast too. I just want to say that I want to spread my quote unquote wisdom to some people of, my short life of 17-ish years. I collected some wisdom, I would say, some knowledge. Now, surely I'm not that knowledgeable about a lot of things. I mean, that's just a human for you. I can't be knowledgeable about giving therapeutical aid or giving someone life advice. Nah. I mean, shit. That's what I'm doing right now. But that don't matter. What really matters is sometimes, or at most, it's just going to be me and you. And this, whatever platform you're watching this from, I'm not sure. Might upload on YouTube, but still. It's just going to be me, you, and you're probably listening to this while you're doing something. Because I'm not going to be showing my face, nor will I be showing anything interesting on screen. It'll probably just be a flat image of, I'm not sure, some logo or something like that. I'm not sure. I'll figure out something. If anything, I'll just go ahead and use just a random ass photo that I have on my drive and call it a day. Yeah, this is going to be very unprofessional for the first couple of episodes until I either A, develop some skills, or B, I go ahead and get proper equipment. And maybe a co-host. I'm not sure. I've been deciding on a co-host. I recently DM'd some people that I know very closely, that I've known for a while, actually. And, yeah, we'll see how that goes. They didn't respond back directly, of course. They probably changed topics after that. They were mostly worried because I'll probably say something outlandish, but I've trained myself to at least a bare minimum to withhold at least 1 hour without saying something controversial. So, yay! But anyway, since I already got my introduction out of there, I already gave you mostly everything that you need to know about me. And I feel like for the first episode, we should probably talk about let's talk about my nicotine addiction. Or just addiction in general. Like, mostly nicotine addiction, because that's the most I've experienced with. So, as I said before, I'm a high school student. In my junior year, that is. And I had a nicotine addiction since the start of middle school. In 8th grade. Was it? Yeah, in 8th grade. Now, you'll think, oh, this nicotine addiction started off because someone gave you a hit, or because you previously, smoked cigarettes and you got into vaping, which is some part of the truth, that is. But no, my vaping addiction, or my nicotine addiction, however you want to say, started off when I was walking back at home, and I found a green posh vape that was somewhat broken, somewhat fucked up, but it still worked. And me being the 7th grader eighth grader I am, so I was probably 12 or 13 back when this happened. I was like, vape. And, being in middle school, you would not expect a lot of middle schoolers vaping. But, since I come from parts of New York I live in New York, by the way. Yeah, I'm sorry for that, guys. I'm sorry, I'm a New Yorker. Don't kill me. But, as I said before, my nicotine addiction started off the ground. And, our middle school was heavily like a vaping school. Like, you went to the boys' bathroom, that shit was like a rave club. Smoke everywhere. Like, I remember seeing kids with custom, like, vape boxes with the Louis Vuitton pattern on it. Man, that shit's wild. Funniest thing, he was in 7th grade. I was my 8th grader ass going to the bathroom trying to take a piss. And this motherfucker with the Louis Vuitton print box was blowing fat clouds in the goddamn bathroom stall. I'm like, bro, I'm trying to piss here. Might have to take a hit. And, I tried at least 2 times to take a hit, but one of the teachers were checking the bathroom, and I'm surprised how the fuck we did not get caught. I'm surprised how I didn't get caught. Because, yeah, middle school 8th grade, 8th year was very fun for me. Probably the best school year I had, right next to freshman year until it got cut off, but still. But back to what I was saying. Yeah, so after, I was using that vape, one of my friends, I'll go by his name by calling him Mr. G, said he could get me a vape. And it wasn't, permanent vape, it was a disposable. But, I paid him $10. He got me the vape, he got me the stick. And, this was probably the first vape I ever owned. Sure, it was a disposable one and it doesn't work anymore. I still have it in my, collections of disposables that I collect after every time I use them. And, honestly, if I remember correctly, it was pineapple. It was either pineapple or mango. Not sure which. And I'm not sure if the company even makes them anymore. Yeah. But, I finished that one down. Took me 3 days. And then, one of my friends that I knew, well, I won't say he's a friend. No, actually, he is definitely a friend, because we did hang out a little bit during summer break. And, he was the same year as me, too. And we decided to split one vape with each other. So he paid $5, I paid $5. And, we went to the boardwalk and we started, having a nice stroll and all that. Those are probably memories that I really like, because it was so relaxing. Because it was literally just 2 guys who were both 8th graders, so we were like 13, 14. Yeah, so probably somewhere around that range. Walking down the boardwalk, pulling fat clouds and shit. And, just talking about life. And honestly, I kind of, that boardwalk gives me nostalgic, feelings. Because it has some good memories in there. Actually, in a matter of fact, I am probably gonna contact him sooner or later. I mean, he changed his phone multiple times, but I still have his friend's phone, and hopefully, if everything's alright, they probably still have each other's phones, and yeah, I would love to go ahead and meet that guy again. Absolute lad. So, 8th grade finish, I quit vaping for a while, and then, what's the thing? Back to 9th grade. Now, 9th grade was a very confusing year. Very, very confusing. So, I was a middleman. How do I say this? I was dumb back then, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna use my race to smuggle in vapes and nicotine sticks. Why? Because apparently in high school you have metal detectors. Common thing apparently. Not sure how uncommon that is, but for New York, especially in our area, it was specifically common. Not sure why, but it is what it is. I don't blame them. I really don't blame the school. But it felt like TSA every time we had to go through that shit, except the fact they didn't check the shoes. So, I did what I best could. I shoved nicotine and vapes down my shoe. Even my own nicotine. I was risking my own nicotine stick, which I, matter of fact, paid $15 and I got 2 pods over the time of me owning it. So that amounted to $25 I put into nicotine. I mean, overall, in general, I counted how much money I put into nicotine over these past years. And, just cigars in general, too, because I tried to quit nicotine by smoking cigars. Probably the dumbest thing I ever did, but I don't judge myself for that. And I'll say over those years of me, vaping and being on and off, I'd probably say it amounts up to $150. Those $150 could have been put towards something better. And honestly, I mean, I would consider myself a nicotine addict, but I did promise myself and my dad that once I finish this current disposable I have, which is, if I can fish it out of my pocket real quick, a Fume Tropical Punch Infinity. This will probably last me for 2 weeks because it's a very big size. But anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and now talk about the first time I tried to quit nicotine, like my first actual time trying to quit nicotine. So back, I think in freshman year, yes, in 20, 2021. No, wait, 2020. Yes, 2020. I decided to, you know what? I'm going to smoke weed. That's going to be a story for later, the weed story. But it ended up with me being caught not only high as hell, but with a nicotine stick. Now, my dad didn't instantly take away the nicotine stick because he probably was more worried about the fact that I was probably going to die. And you know what? As a dad, I mean, no, I mean from a dad point of view, I understand him because I was so close to throwing up. I was probably sitting in the shower for 2 hours. I was probably hungry as hell. Yeah, weed was a wonder, especially when you're 14 and you cannot handle shit, apparently. So yeah, a week after that, he found my vape, which was a Click. Now they no longer produce them anymore, so it's a relic at this point, and I'm not sure if the one that I had even works to this day. But if it does, there's really no purpose to it because they stopped selling the pods too. So yeah, there goes that. But I was successful. I did stop vaping for a while actually. However, and I'm gonna disappoint myself and some people who are listening to this, but you probably don't care enough to judge me, right? I didn't do anything controversial, but I started smoking cigarettes. Big yikes. Um, so after I finally quit cigarettes, for real, like I generally told my parents to remove all the cigarettes they had in their house just so I can't smoke. And my mom still carries herself a small case of Virginia small Slims, but I have enough self-control to hold myself back. But anyway, after that whole ordeal of being caught in freshman year, I was clean vape. I was clean out of vaping for my sophomore year and coming into my, what should we call it, third year of high school. However, and I'm saying this with very, very heavy regrets, because that probably added another $40 or $50 to how much I wasted for nicotine vaping and all that. Yeah, well, my friends started vaping. Now, honestly, back when I was vaping too, back in the first year or so of me vaping, I did try to have her convince her to, hit the vape a couple of times. So I guess this is payback for me being an absolute shitty friend and trying to convince one of my friends to vape with me. So she got me hooked back then. Now, back then, there was only two major disposable companies. It was Stig, which made some bomb ass vapes. Like, those vapes hit your fucking throat hard as fuck. Like, one pull and you would probably get the buzz that you need instantly. It was pretty heavy. They made ice flavors too, which was probably one of my favorite flavors. Like ice mango and like ice fruit flavors and all that. Yeah. So it all started off with a blue mile, blueberry raspberry mile or some shit like that. And then I started, investing my money that I either stole from my parents, which looking back at it now, I heavily frown upon because that was a pretty shitty thing to do. Like, no kid should be stealing money from their parents. But, I always felt guilty asking my parents for some money. And, I would rather steal than tell them that I stole it from them. So, there's my reasoning to do that. And honestly, looking back, I regret it heavily. I really do. Ever since I stopped stealing from my from my mother's, what you call it, purse, or like my dad's like what you call it, wallet. I think my relationship has improved with them a little bit. And if I need money, I'll just go ahead and say, hey, I'm going out with friends. Do you mind if I grab, a $10, $15, a 20 bill? And they'll give it to me. They'll gladly give it to me because I'm going outside. And honestly, that's why I probably respect my parents a little bit more after I felt comfortable with me asking money from them. But anyway, so then after, going on and off during that span of a couple of months, not a couple of months, probably 5, 6, 7 months or something like that, on and off. My mom finds my collection of disposable vapes. Now all of these no longer worked. They're all drained out of their vape juice. And honestly, I was thinking about quitting for a while now. I've been trying to quit on and off and all that, but I usually came back because the delis were so close to my place, and I thought, one more vape can't hurt. So I made an agreement with my dad. I think 2 or 3 days before my birthday, I went outside and I told him everything I told you guys about the vaping and all that. This is just between me and you, okay, and my family, or anyone else who's watching this. But between me and the viewer, I like to tell you a little bit about each short stories of my life. But after being caught red-handed and admitting to the fact that I had a vaping addiction, I tell my dad, listen, I'm gonna one of my friends said that she would get me a vape for my birthday, so how about you go ahead, let me have this one last thing before I go off towards, never smoking weed again and probably quitting vaping until I move out, which isn't long, but still, I probably wouldn't still vape. But who knows? The future will tell me that. But anyway, I told him how much I wasted. It was like, all right, I'll go ahead and pay you back in cash. However, and I'm glad I made this decision, I will go ahead and tell him that, listen, I think it's better if you just go ahead and, put it all towards my birthday present. And you know what? He did that. He really did. And that's why I love him for that. But yeah, I I'm very grateful for that. I'm really grateful for, turning a year older. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's nothing more because I can't really speak for what's going to be happening in the future with my, nicotine addiction. But I will say that I'm really happy that, my mindset of vaping has, moved on a little bit for the better side, that is. And you know what? I feel like this is a perfect time to wrap it up. I mean, I'm about to hit the 32-minute mark, and I'm going to have to go ahead, listen to this, edit it out probably because I had to pause the recording 2 minutes ago. And yeah, I'm not sure if this episode is going to see, the day of light, be exposed to the internet. But you know what? If it does, I will say one thing. We're about to be on the journey of my bullshit. So yeah, thank you all for watching the Lightbulb podcast. I was your host, American Lightbulb, and I'll see you probably next week. Not at the same time, but next week for sure. All right, catch you later.